Okay, welcome to this week's Bottom Line, everybody. Well, it was another crazy week in the NFL. Kenny Britt going down, Michael Vick being injured. You know, a funny story from my league is that some poor bastard has Jamal Charles and Kenny Britt. I mean, that's just tough luck. But the good luck for me is the week before Jamal Charles got injured, I tried to trade for him, and the guy wouldn't part with him. We almost had it done, but at the last second, he pulled in the reins. Then last week, I offer everything but my firstborn for Kenny Britt. He's just about to pull the trigger, and then he replaces him with Hakeem Nicks, which is kind of like having somebody who's out for the season anyway. But good fortune for me, at least I just missed out on Jamal Charles and Kenny Britt, and now this guy basically has no team left. So, hey, I always say fantasy football has some luck involved. I mean, some of these experts try to pretend they're splitting the atom, but let's be honest, you lose Jamal Charles and Kenny Britt, that's a tough break. So let's get on to this week's fire sale. You can catch the fire sale every Tuesday at si.com or sportsgrumblings.com. A couple guys going up, a couple guys going down. First going up, obviously, Nate Washington. We talked about Britt. What really surprised me is that Washington, going into this week, was only owned in roughly 30% of fantasy leagues, which is kind of crazy since he's having a better fantasy season than guys like Hakeem Nicks, Antonio Holmes, who receivers that went much higher. I mean, Washington wasn't even drafted in most leagues. So I was a little surprised that he wasn't owned in more leagues, but now you really have to go out and get Nate Washington if he's in your league. I've gotten some emails. He is available in a lot of leagues. The thing about Washington is this. Maybe he did benefit from playing with Britt because the defenses rotated over to try to stop Britt. I get all that, but the Titans can't run the ball at all. I mean, Chris Johnson has been a non-factor, and while I'm sure they'll try to run the ball more going forward, they're a passing football team right now. I mean, when you can't run it, you can't run it. There's nothing you can do. So Nate Washington becomes the number one option on a team that throws the ball a lot. I hear a lot about Jared Cook. I've heard about Jared Cook for 3 years now. Every year he has a couple of good games at the end of the season when they don't mean anything, and every summer he's this big sleeper. I'll believe it when I see it. I haven't seen anything out of Jared Cook so far. So the guy to have in Tennessee right now is clearly Nate Washington. Okay, so a guy I really liked this summer was Stephen Ridley. I mean, I liked him right as the Patriots drafted him. A lot of people called that a reach. Those are people who don't watch college football. Guy played in the SEC, toughest conference in America, led the SEC in rushing touchdowns while playing on a team that couldn't throw the ball at all. They finished something like 107th in the country against the pass. This guy was great in college. So he comes to the Patriots, has the first two preseason games are amazing. It's like I couldn't have written a better script myself for Stephen Ridley. Starts to get some love, starts to get drafted, but then what happened was Ridley got injured. And that kind of set him back a little bit because, the Patriots offense is complicated. You really need to be in there all training camp. And so season starts, Ridley's pretty much a non-factor. So if you listen to me and you drafted him, you probably dropped him by now. Woodhead, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis getting most of the touches. But last week, Ridley got in. He had 44 yards on 7 carries, caught a couple passes. Now, here's the thing I've always said about Ridley in New England. He's by far the most talented back there. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis does some nice things. Danny Woodhead does some nice things. But they don't really put it all together. In my opinion, Ridley's the guy there who can put it all together and be that running back that they need. Now, I know Bill Belichick. I know his methods. He's going to give young guys opportunities. If they take advantage of those opportunities, they'll get more opportunities. Ridley took advantage of his first opportunity against Buffalo. I think he gets some more touches this week against the Raiders. If he plays well, he's going to continue to get in the game, and I think at some point you could see Stephen Ridley being the primary ball carrier in New England. Now, a guy everybody's going after this week is obviously Torrey Smith of the Ravens. He when you catch your first 3 passes in the league, when they're touchdown passes, you're going to be a hot commodity on the waiver wire. I actually picked him up in my league, but I didn't have to use a waiver wire request on him. Nobody else picked him up, which absolutely shocked me. So he was available, so I picked him up. Here's the thing about Smith. Coming into the NFL, he was raw. He's raw. He's got speed. He can get down the field, but he has to improve his route running. On Sunday, all I saw him do was run by a terrible, terrible Rams cornerback 3 times, really. I mean, that was basically what he did. So I don't know how much fantasy value he has right now. Lee Evans is coming back. Maybe I'm the only person who knows Lee Evans hasn't been good since I was in high school, back in 1990. I notice in Buffalo those other receivers aren't having any trouble putting up numbers. I just think Lee Evans is done. So there's a good chance Torrey Smith is going to be more involved with the offense. The Ravens really need a deep threat, but I think he's going to be more valuable to the Ravens stretching defenses than he will for fantasy owners. We'll see. he could be the next Denarius Moore. I mean, maybe he gets more playing time, but what I saw on Sunday didn't really convince me for Torrey Smith. All right, I got 3 running backs going down this week, and two of them were pretty high draft picks. So the first one is Frank Gore. I'm a huge Frank Gore fan. I think I've owned him every year I played fantasy football. But I watch him right now, and I'm not seeing the same player. I know the line stinks. I know the line's not blocking at all, but I don't see very much burst. I don't see him hitting the holes quite as hard. And one thing that worries me about a running back is when they put in a younger guy, and he looks like he has more juice in his legs. They put in Kendall Hunter. He's not running for 120 yards, but it looks like he's getting through the line a little easier. Reports are Hunter's going to start touching the ball more. I mean, Gore really can't afford to lose many touches. I mean, if you own Gore in a fantasy league, you know the kind of numbers he's putting up. He starts losing touches. I mean, you might as well put him on the waiver wire. So Gore probably going to play this week with the injury, but Kendall Hunter's a guy you want to look at going forward. I mean, he could be the Roy Halou there, where he starts getting 5-10 touches a game, and then as the year goes on, he starts getting more. I know they gave Gore a lot of money, but right now he doesn't look like the same player to me. Someone else who doesn't look the same to me is Rashard Mendenhall. Again, bad offensive line, I get it. But he's basically putting his head down and just running up the backs of his offensive linemen. We saw Monday night, he just looked terrible. He was just running with his head down. And I thought something very interesting was late in the game, and Weldy Moore was in the backfield, and it wasn't when the Steelers were passing. It was when they were controlling clock, setting up for the field goal. I'm not saying Weldy Moore is going to be the starting back there, but they like Isaac Redman. You could start seeing Mendenhall lose some touches. He doesn't look like the same back he's been the last 2 years, in my opinion. And then the third guy, our old friend Beanie Wells. It took 2 weeks before the old game time decision, and ended up being inactive. My favorite part is when Beanie told everyone he was going to play last week. I mean, you got to be kidding me. This guy cannot play with pain. Maybe one of my favorite predictions ever was tabbing this guy a pansy back in Ohio State. He constantly took himself out of games, big games too. And listen, some people can't play with pain. You know, Antonio Gates is a guy I had going down in the fire sale this week because I'm concerned about his foot. But he's somebody who'll play with pain. I mean, you have to pretty much chop Gates' legs off to get him out for the season. He'll try to play through pain. There's guys like that. Then there's guys like Beanie. He won't do it. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you drafted him, we never doubted Beanie's talent, okay? I never said this guy can't play in the NFL. I said this guy doesn't like to play with pain in the NFL. He didn't do it in college. So if you drafted Beanie, I mean, you kind of knew what you were getting yourself into, and this is what you signed up for. So get ready for a whole lot more game time decisions from Beanie Wells. All right, some sneaky starts this week. The sneaky starts are starting to take shape here as more injuries mount up. We're going to get bye weeks coming soon. So let's start in Carolina. They got 2 guys there. First, Jonathan Stewart. You know, I read somewhere that they said, well, D'Angelo Williams is still going to get carries because he's making so much money. Why is that Ron Rivera's problem? Isn't his job to win football games? I mean, coaches should only care about winning football games. If you get fired for not playing somebody who the front office gave too much money to, you know, so be it. You'll get another job somewhere. People know if you can coach or not. So Jonathan Stewart, to me, has always been the superior back. Said it this summer, said it a couple weeks ago, and I'm saying it again. He's starting to get more touches. You know, if you have injuries, if you need a flex guy, he's catching passes. I like Jonathan Stewart moving forward. Another guy I like for the Panthers this week is at tight end, Greg Olsen. I don't know if you saw the Bears play last week, but they kind of leave the tight end open. Olsen now getting more involved with the offense since he's not playing with Mike Martz. Olsen's always been a great player. He's just been underused, and I think Carolina with Cam Newton, you know, they were throwing the ball all over the yard early on, but as defenses start to take that away, I think you're going to see more short passes go to Olsen. He's a good receiver. I think he's good for Cam Newton, and I like him this week as a sleeper tight end play against the Bears. And finally, we have Jabbar Gaffney. Gaffney, to me, is the epitome of an average player. He's not going to do anything spectacular, but if you play in a PPR league, he's going to catch you 4 balls a game. So if you're kind of stuck and you have Gaffney on your bench, you can get 9 or 10 points out of him in usual weeks. I mean, he's playing the Rams, so it's just awful against the pass right now. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that Rams team. I thought they'd be a lot better than this. I think they'll improve as the season goes on. But right now, they can't stop anybody. So if you're looking for in a PPR league, if you're looking for a flex play who can get you 10 to 12 points, throw Jabbar Gaffney in there. Now for my final word. Well, last week we touched on some bad coaches and we talked about Leslie Frazier. And I'd like to apologize to Tony Sparano. He is now number 2 on the worst coaches in the NFL list. It took Leslie Frazier just 3 weeks to nab the number 1 spot. I mean, let's start with the obvious. The Vikings became the first team in modern NFL history to lose their first 3 games when leading by double digits. Now you try to tell me that's not coaching. I mean, that's all Donovan McNabb's fault? I don't think so. I mean, this guy, he's an absolute jerk. I like what Adrian Peterson said. He can't explain why he's not getting more carries. Well, I can. Ask Percy Harvin. It's Leslie Frazier. That's why. The guy's an idiot. I mean, 4th and 1. If you're the Vikings, there's 2 play calls. I don't care how big your playbook is. If it's 4th and 1, you have 2 options. First, you can do a play-action pass and try to hit a big play. I never criticize guys for being aggressive and trying to score. So if you want to do that, I'm fine with it. The only other option is to hand the ball to the best pure runner in the NFL, Adrian Peterson. That's it. They put Peterson and Gerhardt in the backfield at the same time and hand it to Gerhardt. I mean, Frazier must have thought it was white boy day. It's never white boy day when Adrian Peterson is in your backfield. That's just common sense stuff. I mean, you don't need to be a coach. You don't have to go to high school and college and the NFL to know when you got Adrian Peterson, you hand him the ball on 4th and 1. And then the guy has 78 yards rushing at the half and he finishes with 81. It's bad coaching. It's just, the guy's an idiot. You can see him on the sidelines. He has no idea what he's doing. I mean, Viking fans are already in an uproar trying to get him out of there. I don't think it's going to take long, to be honest with you. But we have an interesting situation this week. We have my worst coach in the NFL, Leslie Frazier, playing my 3rd worst coach in Todd Haley. Now, if you're wondering why Todd Haley is the 3rd worst, perhaps you saw the Chargers-Chiefs game this week. Down 10 points with 7 minutes to go from the 50-yard line. The guy is huddling up and he's handing the ball to Thomas Jones. Now you tell me what sense that makes. He's just trying to keep the score close. There's no way you're trying to win doing that. You tell me if the Saints, the Patriots, the Packers, the Steelers, well-coached teams, when they're down 10 with 7 minutes to go, what are they doing? No huddle, hurry up, throwing the ball all over. I mean, I wouldn't like the play call, but at least if they try to draw to Dexter McCluster out of the shotgun, maybe he picks up 15, 20 yards. Where's Thomas Jones going? I mean, where's he ever going? Unless you got the ball at the 1-inch line, why is Thomas Jones ever touching the football? And when you're down 10 with 7 minutes to go, that's your play call? Hand it to Thomas Jones, get half a foot, huddle up. That's just not trying to win the football game. If I'm a Chiefs fan, I'd be irate watching that because your coach is supposed to be doing everything in his power to try to win a football game. And giving the ball to Thomas Jones at the 50-yard line when you're down 10 is not trying to win a football game. So this is what I propose. Chiefs, Vikings this week. We got 2 of our top 3 worst coaches in the NFL. How about an old-fashioned wrestling-style loser leaves town match? You lose that game, you're done. Get out. We don't want to see you anymore. Then if you win, you have to play the Dolphins at some point, and Tony Sparano, loser of that game, get out. We don't want to see you anymore. And if you can survive those 2 games, we'll let you stick for the rest of the year. Other than that, get the hell out. I don't want to see those coaches anymore. I've seen all I need to see of Leslie Frazier. Sparano will be fired at the end of the year, and hopefully Haley will be gone too. If there's anything I can't stand watching on Saturdays and Sundays, it's bad coaching, and those 3 teams are coached very, very poorly. So that's it this week for the bottom line. You can catch me, like I said, on Sports Grumblings at SI.com with the fire sale every Tuesday. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Thomas Casale if you want fantasy advice or just listen to my bitching and moaning. And you can also email me at tcasale@mail.com. I answer every email, always have. If you have anything to say and you need some advice with your team, trades, just shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. So thanks for tuning in this week. I'll see you next week on The Bottom Line.